Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending. I don't think there's any reason for us to not get cracking and get started on this. Just big thank you to for coming to this fans forum before the game. We wanted to do one for a little while, but the games have been a bit busier than this one, so it's been quite difficult for us. But essentially, I'm just going to open the floor to questions, and the ones I can't answer, which is probably a high percentage, Jamie is here with his biblical knowledge of the club to help us out. So if anybody wants to put their hand up and ask a question, feel free to do so. You're straight in. Excellent.
Yeah. There's been some talk this week of dealings with the council.
Yeah.
Could you sort of give us any more sort of details on how things have been going, especially as regards the leases? Are there any assurances that we need to give to the council for them to extend them? Or is there anything we need to do in particular to sort of get that lease?
I'll work through it from the start. In terms of the leases, I've had three meetings arranged with the councils, and they've all been cancelled at the last minute so far, not by us. So I am putting them under a bit of pressure to actually have that meeting. So I haven't actually had any detailed conversations about the leases. All our other discussions with the council have been really good over the course of the last 3 or 4 months. Darren Ball, who's our stadium director, has had various conversations. We've obviously had to, I think there's been obviously a couple of news stories this week that have come out. One about the new LED floodlights that we've potentially got coming in. We have to be very careful about when we go public with any information like that, because we don't obviously want to do it before everything's finalised and secured. But we're a long way down the route, hopefully now, of getting the new LED floodlights installed. We should have, touch wood, 100% funding for that, so it won't come at a cost to the club, which is brilliant. And the plan is for them, hopefully, the new LED lights to be installed on the current pylons. I saw someone ask that question yesterday. The plan is, but we need to a little bit of testing needs to be carried out on the structure of those pylons before that can be confirmed. We're hopeful there shouldn't be any issues, but we won't be losing our lovely antique pylons as well. I think people will generally be pleased about that because it adds to the atmosphere of the ground. And I think the other thing that came out this week was just that we've been given a licence to temporarily occupy the Blackfriars end a little bit more than we do. Obviously we have access rights anyway for Ben, the groundsman, and all his kit and the sheds and things. But obviously when we've had a more sizable away support like we did against Rochdale and Gillingham, we've been able to use that little area. Well, traditionally it was where the cage used to be for a refreshments truck and some extra toilets. And we've just basically been able to secure rights to use those for hopefully some of the bigger fixtures that we've coming up, the Scunthorpe and the Gloucester, and those two initially. But each time we've asked the council if we can do that, they've been really cooperative and gone absolutely no problem at all. So the relationship generally is pretty good at the moment. There's one or two things that, for example, just in terms of the floodlights, we need to liaise with them about the antennas on the top of the floodlights as well, just to get permission from those companies involved as well about if we do get the LED lights installed, those antennas will have to be turned off for a short period during that day. So, but generally the conversations we've been having with the council have been really good so far. I would like to get sat down with them to start talking about the lease properly. So I'll be reminding them on Monday that I want to rearrange that meeting ASAP.
Just a runner from that then, so I don't know too much about the LED floodlight thing. Is this going to save the club money on energy, etc.?
Yeah,
Is it going to improve the light? Because
yeah.
I did notice some things seem to go a bit dark at one point.
Yeah, I wasn't sure it was my eyes getting older or anything, but yeah, no, both those things actually, it will reduce the costs in terms, I think it's 60 for 70% saving, is that right, Darren? He's nodding at me at the back, so potentially a 60 or 70% saving on using those lights rather than the ones we've currently got. And actually, the lights that we're getting will pass this, they automatically pass this level and they would pass the level above as well. So we would be covered for a promotion to the National League in the fantastic world we'd all like to live in. At that stage we couldn't go any further with them to go for the sort of Football League regulations like, but it would just be the next stage. If we did get to that stage and needed it, we can just move forward with that again at that point in time. So it would cover us off and it will save us money hopefully.
In your crystal ball, Do you see 12, 18 months before we get the lights?
In my crystal ball, I would like to see it very much sooner than that. I don't want to name any dates or put a time scale on it, but potentially it is something. It could be, it could be a very short-term change, actually, with a bit of luck. It'll just depend on, as I said, there's a little bit of testing that needs to be carried out, but I think we're pretty much almost there in terms of the detail of the funding, etc. Then we need to go from there. Oh, hang on, Darren's waving. I'm going to let Darren speak. This is Darren, our stadium director. He's going to give you a bit more detail.
We're a lot far down the line in relation to it, a lot further than other clubs, thanks to some help from within the Football Foundation. So I would like to think, as the state says, a couple of 3 months.
Yeah. At one point I tried to get him to say just before Christmas, but he's not committing to that. So hopefully over the next 2 or 3 months we'll go from Darren. He didn't say, he's like that, Darren. He's a bit evasive, Darren. He's a former policeman, you see. Yes, anybody else?
What's the position with our club if another club takes an interest in our manager?
Paul's under. I think I said this at the first fans room. Paul signed a 2-year contract, so he's under contract. So a club couldn't come and just approach him direct. They would have to come through us. And obviously, in his contract, there are caveats in terms of interest came from elsewhere. And caveats or clauses both ways. If it wasn't going the way that we wanted to, obviously there'd be a clause that we could invoke, and also the other way around if a club came in from outside. But he's under contract for 2 years, so it couldn't happen without them approaching us first. They couldn't approach him direct, so it would have to be done properly in those circumstances, and there would be, there would be a payment required to us if someone did want to come and take him off our hands, if that makes sense. It's all in the contract, in the way that was agreed at the start.
Personally, I think you were very brave taking on the manager that never managed really. I couldn't see until recently why you wanted someone. So for him to be taught like this, it must be good for everybody, wasn't it? It must show that we're doing better. And he needs to have 2 or 3 seasons here, regardless of anything.
Yeah, I did message him yesterday when I saw that article and said, I see your agent's been busy. but then I know he hasn't got an agent, so that was okay.
Why don't you become his agent?
Yeah, so I thought maybe he's been busy. But no, it was I think, unsurprisingly, I'd never appointed a football manager before, but I think it was an interesting process. Obviously, Jamie has been through it before, but I think at the end of the day, there was a risk whoever we appointed. You're never guaranteed it's going to work out, and I've said this before, and apologies if I've bored you. When we went through the process, I just wanted to be grabbed by somebody. I wanted someone, and we interviewed lots of competent people, to be fair, but all the way through, I just wanted to be grabbed by somebody who had a passion and a real burning desire to do it, and they all did, but there was just something about, personally, I felt there was something about Paul, the way he came across, the way he spoke. He didn't waste any words. What you're seeing now in his post-match interviews and in his communication is pretty much what came across in the interviews, in terms of there was no nonsense. He wasn't saying things for the sake of saying things. He's pretty honest. He's pretty open. I think he's respectful in terms of he doesn't treat people like idiots. I think he knows that we can all see things with our own eyes almost, and doesn't try and dress it up any other way. And I have to say, even during the period where things weren't going fantastically well, obviously that 6-game losing streak, there were no conversations between board members in terms of doubting our decision at that point, because it was very early days, and because of the massive turnaround that we've had as squad. I've been impressed with the way he's handled himself throughout, even during that losing period. I don't think he didn't try to kid anybody on about what was going on and the difficulties he was facing, but I do think he's kind of reacted. He's reacted when things have gone badly. He's made changes after that run, and I'm really pleased with the work he's done, to be honest. And more than that, I think I'm really pleased with the type of character and the type of player that he's brought in, because it wasn't easy, and clearly you looked at him. He didn't know this level. He hadn't really got an experience of this level. But I look at the players he's brought in, and when you consider the different places the players have come in from, I think actually he's shopped around well. He's really done good homework on all these individuals, and he's put together what I think is a really pleasing squad to watch as it stands at the moment. There's no guarantees clearly moving forward, but certainly where we are at the moment, I'm absolutely delighted.
Because we couldn't win a game from letting a goal in, could we? It was always 2 years when we let a goal in, we lost a game.
No, absolutely, and it was really interesting because obviously I sat alongside him for a couple of games after we appointed him, and he had clearly looked back over our results over a number of years and was like, why is the club not come from behind in any games to win matches? And he was clearly thinking about what he needed to change in terms of the culture and the attitude and that type of thing. And I think that's one of his, one of the big success stories from him. And I also think it's why the way that players are, the way they go out and play, is why there feels like there's such a great bond between us as supporters and the players on the pitch and the management staff. And I think that's just, for me, that's one of the most pleasing things about it, is I think there's just this real warmth everywhere now that the players clearly appreciate how lucky they are to be here, and Paul appreciates how lucky he is to be here. But as fans, I think you can feel the warmth and love from the supporters to what the players are trying to do, and that's one of the most pleasing things for me, to be perfectly honest.
Well, they were all voted player of the season in their own clubs, weren't they? The majority of them. So there's an attitude they brought in someone, first of all, not injured all the time, and wants to play and win.
Yeah. And I have to say, they're a great bunch of lads. And there are similarities between the way the lads were in those first 2 or 3 seasons as well, in terms of the way they are and the bond they've got between themselves. So I think, long way to go, but I think I'm really pleased. I think we're in a really good place at the moment.
So where are we with injuries then?
Where are we? Yeah, where are we with injuries? We are with injuries. I'm just saying, Mark Derricott's done a really heavy session out there just earlier on. He's very close. I think there was some hope that he might have been able to have a run out off the bench today, but he's not quite there. But he's very, very close. Jordan Lydon, his injury wasn't as bad as was first feared, which was brilliant. So that looked like it might have been a tendon issue when he got taken off at Alfreton. I think he himself thought it might have been a tendon issue, but it doesn't appear to be so. So that's just what's described a grade 2 thigh issue. So hopefully he could be a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks away if that continues to progress okay. Obviously Paul Downing's come back into contention and played on Tuesday. Ollie Southern had got a bump up at Boston, but hopefully he's okay now. That's why he missed out on Tuesday night, just as a precaution more than anything. Andy Williams is back running, and he is, from speaking to him at every home game, he's incredibly frustrated with where he is. I think he'd originally targeted being back kind of almost mid to late September, but the progress with his knee just hasn't been how it wanted to be. He's been back to see his physio, who's changed, this is about 3 or 4 weeks ago, who changed kind of his plan in terms of what he should be doing in terms of strengthening. And he is back running now properly and is running for longer periods than he has in the past. But again, at the moment, it's just difficult to put timescales on it. I know people have said it's been quite quiet on Andy Williams, but that's really because we don't have any timescales as it stands at the moment. He's desperate to come back. It's driving him slowly mad, to be honest. He's not a great watcher, is he, on the sideline? Although he's in amongst it, but he's not a great watcher. But we've all got our fingers crossed that at some point we will see Willow return to the field. He's doing everything he can to make that happen, and it's just going to be a case of seeing how that plays out, I think.
Because we knew you to offer Jordan Lydon a contract on the beaches of Cyprus.
That's quite a good grapevine, that is. How'd you get that?
Because we had a phone call in our room. This bloke said, I see your Hereford fans. He said, I see your flags, meaning the towels. And he said, would you like to have a chat with me the next morning by the local shop? I was like, this is bizarre. The guy hadn't mentioned anything else. And then he said, just to tell you, in a broad Birmingham accent, he's like Jordan Lydon's father-in-law. So the next morning, went downstairs down to Chaplin, and he's a real Brummy. He's a blue nose, and he was telling us about Jordan. From then onwards, he had a nice hotel on the beach. He had like an all-inclusive one that actually lapped onto the beach. And every time I went for a bit of a dip in the sea, he'd come down because he wanted to have a chat. So then one day he went, don't tell anybody, as if there was only me and Wacker with me there. Remotely interested, he said, I'll offer Jordan a contract at the end of the year. So I said, how did you know I was in the scene? He went, I could hear your voice from the
Yeah, no, I mean, Jordan's, I think anybody that's seen him play can see the quality he's got, and I think we wouldn't kid ourselves that he's probably not a better player than National League North from what we've seen so far. But it was interesting talking to him actually after he'd signed the contract, because he said that one of the big reasons that he signed was because of the group of players that he found when he came here, how well he'd slotted in, what a tight group it was. He knew the manager anyway, so obviously understood what he was going to get there. But he was just incredibly complimentary of the fact that, I probably could have looked elsewhere maybe, or I could have waited, but I'd been made so welcome here and I've enjoyed it so much that it was a no-brainer for me in terms of trying to play some football and get himself sorted, and that's, again, a big compliment to your group of players.
I think the great thing from the fans' point of view is, for the first time since the club was formed, we got players who played in the Championship, Football League 1, Football League 2, and at a higher standard, which is what we needed. We were looking for players below us, and we hope they will come, and some have. But the Championship, ex-Championship Football League players, they've made such a difference.
They have, and I don't think it's the wrong thing to say. They wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the manager. I'm no doubt they could have probably gone and earned more money elsewhere. In fact, I'm sure they could have gone and earned more money elsewhere, but he has got a certain pull, and because he's played with them in the past and they know what he's all about, he has been able to kind of, I'm going to say long arm into signing contracts, but he's certainly been able to exert an influence in terms of getting him here, and that's, I think, another reason why we are kind of lucky to have had him, and we seem to have, touched with so far, fallen quite well with Paul, so fingers crossed that continues.
To bring us down to earth a bit, I mean, obviously we're all happy at the moment because it's all going very well, but we did see the losses that we've suffered, and I wondered what the board's strategy was for building up the reserves, because obviously, without reserves you never know what's going on.
It's pretty straightforward, really. We've looked at every single aspect of the club over the course of the last 3 or 4 months. I said this the other day, actually, to somebody I can't think I was talking to, but it's not about personally to me, really, but had I known what was going to be confronted with 2 months into my tenure, I don't think I would have considered coming back or coming into the role, to be perfectly honest. But then when you realise where we were, it was a case, you've got to take on the challenge. And I have to say, the board has done a fantastic job in terms of trying to address the challenges. George obviously divides the room sometimes in a room, but he's come back and he's done a great job in terms of the commercial aspect of the club, and has really interrogated the bar side, which isn't necessarily his area of expertise, but he's really interrogated the bar side to make sure that we're not spending money there that we shouldn't be. Obviously, we carried out a massive efficiencies exercise, which I think we talked about in our press release around the shareholders update that we then put out to the fans, and that's, across the course of that, identified potentially £30,000 of savings, which we've brought in. You can't get away from the fact that actually what Paul and the players have done on the field in terms of their performances and the crowds that have then come in through the doors because of that has an enormous impact on helping us out of the situation. And what we're looking at really is this has got to be an ongoing process. It hasn't made life easy for Jamie and the staff in the office at times, because we have had to take some decisions that has burdened them with more work, and made work more difficult for them. But they've risen to the challenge brilliantly, in fairness. So we're all very grateful to them, and every single supporter should be very grateful to Jamie and everybody else for all the work that they do. But it's a process that's just going to have to carry on, to be honest. It's going to be an ongoing process. We are in a much, much better situation now than we were 3 or 4 months ago. If we can continue going in the direction we are at the moment, I think we're hopeful that we'll get to the end of the season in a position that makes us feel just a little bit more comfortable. But it's something that we're going to have to address over not just this year, probably next year, the year after, and we've just got to try and be responsible about how we try and grow the club, how we move it forward. The support off the pitch makes an enormous difference. Fans through the gates, people using the bars makes a massive difference, but equally we've got to try and run the business properly, and that's what the focus is on. I don't know if Jamie, you want to add anything, because you've obviously been through quite a lot of this. I think you want to just have a few.
Just without blowing too much smoke behind George, I think he's been really instrumental in making us look through every single thing. So the cost of everything has been kind of looked through a microscope, and we now make decisions based on that rather than just what we think might be a good decision. We actually know now most of the time because we have a look before we make that decision. But yeah, it's been hard work, but to be fair to everyone in the office, and particularly Adam on the bars, he's done a fantastic job. Really cut down the cost, like the expenditure, and maximising everything really. But yeah, it's I think it's a change of mindset probably, led by the board, and everyone's taken that on board. But it helps massively when you got someone like Paul kind of running things on the football side, and obviously the football side's going well. The football side drives everything at the football club, so when you're winning, everything else kind of slots into place a little bit more easily.
I think just as an example of just talking about the bars, it's probably a timely time to talk about it. We've obviously almost stripped everything back to almost basics really, but now we've had a bit of a time to reassess things, and we've had some conversations this morning. And obviously we changed all the bars to opening at 1 o'clock on a match day, and actually we hadn't opened Addison's before some games, but now we've had time to look at it, we've been able to analyse the figures and take on board feedback from supporters. So what we can say now is that we are now going to start Radford's is now going to go back to opening at 12:30 on a match day, so people can come in and watch the live game. And we have taken a decision that we will always open Addison's ahead of a game now as well. So we've had a look at things, we've reassessed it, and as we said at the time, we'll make some decisions that we might then reflect on and go, actually we can go in a different direction. So moving forward, again, we're going to make some changes, and we are going to start. Bradford's will be opening at 12:30 so people can come watch the live game, and then Addison's will be open on a match day before the game and at half-time, and then we have to play it by ear for Addison's a little bit after the game, because if there's a function on upstairs, we've obviously got to make sure all the toilet areas and all that type of stuff is cleaned if there's a big function on upstairs, so it won't necessarily always be open after the game, Addison's, but we will always let people know in advance. But if we can open Addison's after the game, we will do that as well. So it's just an example of, we didn't go extreme, but we took a decision to try and close things to try and see where we are, but now we can reflect on that and just make a few changes. So we're always looking for feedback and things as well. I'm just going to go to the one behind.
Sorry.
Yeah, as well as looking to sort of costs and save money, are we really trying to sort of sell the club in the city and the community? Are the sponsors getting value for money for their input, finance and stuff like that? Because they're massively important businesses that put money in. They're really important. Do you feel that we're sort of trying to get into the community enough? I know that you've done stuff with the schools. There was different initiatives to try and get free tickets for the schools. Are we still pushing things like that?
I'll answer to start with, but I'm going to pass to Jamie because he's obviously very involved in this. Yeah, I'm confident that we are going in a really good direction with that type of stuff now. We've obviously had a period where we've had a very tight focus on trying to address the issues that we were facing. But now I think we've kind of got that moving in another direction. We can start to ensure that we are doing those things that you mentioned. Certainly from a sponsorship side of things are going really well. The hospitality is really kicking in now over the next few fixtures, which is absolutely fantastic.
All those companies are massively important, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. And we've got to make sure they feel part of Hereford Football Club. It's not a case of us just taking their money and sticking a sign up. We've got to make sure that they feel part of the Hereford FC family and the journey as well, and that's something that we're really focused on. So, I am confident again that is going in the right direction. And it was a bit about reinvigoration really, and making sure that we were doing the right thing, keeping people involved.
As well as trying to cut costs, we need to be generating money, don't we?
Well, 100%. We just can't cut everything off and part the football club's daily operation to try and save money. We've got to try and, the best way of doing it is by being positive and proactive and try and move forward. That's the only way we'll progress, and that's what we've got to do. we've had to strike a balance over the past few months because of the situation, but I think we're now reaching a point where we can go through.
It's quite surprising how many people want to spend money, so they want to come here and spend money, you know. And if they feel they're getting value for money, then they'll spend, don't they?
That's it, and if you feel part of something, that's the key thing, isn't it? If you're made to feel welcome, you're made to feel special, you feel part of something, then, and you'll feel appreciated, then you will come back, won't you? And that's what we've got to go and try and do. I'll just pass you to Jamie, because I'm sure he's got a few stuff about the music.
Yeah, with the schools, obviously we've handed out 59 season tickets to schools, which is an adult and a child as well. So, and they're really good. We got some really good feedback from schools that hand them out to various pupils and as rewards. So it's different people every week that come in, and we got some really good feedback about the children and the parents enjoying that. So that's 59. We've had over 250 kids take part in Guard of Honour this season. So the children get a free ticket, but the families come and pay full price. So, you know, we're giving them the taste of football. They're going out on the pitch, and the family are coming in, and they're enjoying a really good day. John Nash and Millie, they do a fantastic job in the community, and they're increasing the amount of schools that they work with. So they've had about kind of 3 or 4 schools that they work with for probably the last 2-3 years. But that's going up in number, and we've actually got schools now contacting us as well as us going out to schools. Little things like lots of schools have asked for a tour in the week. You know, they might be coming into Hereford to go to swimming, for example, and then they'll tag on a tour of the stadium at the same time. So Nashi's done a really good job on that. In terms of, you say people have, I think the biggest thing for me is fans are really keen to support the club. So whenever we put something on, I think we're normally surprised by how well it's supported. The club shop is a prime example. We've really worked hard to try and get some more stock in, which is a little bit of a gamble, but it's paid off massively. So, you know, we're continuing to work. John Sadler does a really good job in the shop. We're getting more and more stock in, but we quite literally can't keep up with the demand. So, for an example, for the shirts, we ordered, I think, 250 more shirts than we'd sold last season, and they, in the initial order, and that sold out straight away, and we're now on our 3rd. I've just put an order in for our 4th order of shirts. So the big thing is, I think that people are really keen to support the club, but again, it goes back to what's out on the pitch, and the fact that Paul has got a team that not only plays well, but you can see the effort and the commitment from every single one of those players, and it makes you just want to support it and back it even more. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, 2 things really. I think if the team continues their success that they're having at the moment, that will help the economic situation hugely, because the fans are coming in. I couldn't believe there were over 2,000 here on Tuesday. I gave a forecast of 1,700 to my grandson, and over 2,000, which was amazing. The question I wanted to ask was, you cut the manager's budget and also the manager's salary by 20%. Do you foresee you would try, I'm not saying get it back to another 20%, but to try at the end of this season to try and increase the budget without the fact, in addition to the fans putting money?
It's clearly not just down to me, which is probably a good idea. But yeah, what we would like to do, I think it's safe to say, is increase the budget as much as we possibly can. Difficult to put a figure on it because you don't know where you're going to be. But at the end of the day, you cannot get away from the fact that the product on the field influences so much of what goes on. We can have the best, you know, commercial offering in the history of football, but actually if the football here is rubbish and people don't want to turn up and watch it and don't feel they're getting their money's worth, people aren't going to come through the door. So you've always got to make sure you invest. I believe we should be trying to invest as much as we possibly can in the football without taking any chances and making sure that the rest of the business can run properly and run sustainably. We need to be looking at building up reserves. It's a fact. We don't have any, so we are going to have to strike a balance. But absolutely 100%, if we feel we can do it safely, you know, my personal view is we have a duty on behalf of supporters to safeguard the future of the club and look after the club and make sure it's here for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But I also think we have a really big duty to try and give you the best possible football team that you have within the boundaries that we have to work within, and that's how I always look at it. And at the end of the day, if there wasn't a football team here to come and support, we wouldn't be spending our time here, would we? Yeah, exactly. And it all comes back to the football at the end of the day. It's a balance, it's an emotional sport. We've got to try and be sensible. And we all know stories of lots of clubs that haven't been, but absolutely, you know, if we're able to make more money available and we're able to start increasing the size of the budget that we can make available, then we have to try. My view is that we have to try and do that as long as we do it sensibly and responsibly.
There is still boost the budget for anybody who wants to, isn't there?
Yeah, 100%, and it has, you know, the money that's been donated through the squad builder and the booster budget has made an enormous difference to what we've been able to do this year, because clearly it's been well publicised that there was a 20% reduction across the board, but because of the money that's been put in, that has increased it significantly and made a huge difference. That the squad builder or the booster budget is still open. It will run for the entire season. If anybody wins the lottery, feel free. That would be absolutely great. But it makes a massive difference, just gives some flexibility and gives some scope for the manager to make changes. Clearly we ended up with three players here, Paul Downing, Yusufu Cisse and Jordan Lydon, that you couldn't have envisaged getting here, and we have moved on them to try and bring them in, because actually to me it would have been false economy not to try and do deals for those, and we've managed to do those, but that does come at a cost, and we've always got to be weighing up. We've got to weigh up the impact that those players can have on the field against any financial risk or any, you know, that we are putting in through signing those. So it is, you know, it's not straightforward. They're not straightforward decisions, but as I said, I think we have a responsibility to try and put as good a football team as we possibly can on the field.
Signing players that have come off injury, though, isn't that very risky? Is that heart in your mouth? The minute you sign them,
But yes, is the answer to the question. But unfortunately, I think it's the reality of us being able to get a player of a quality that's better in the National League North. Because actually, Paul Downing is an example. If he hadn't have had his 3 years of injury issues at Portsmouth, I'm pretty confident that at 31 he wouldn't be playing in the National League North from what I've seen of him. And the same with Jordan Lydon from what I've seen of him, even with Cisse, you know, they've got quality. And I think
the other centre back, I can't remember his name.
Carl Howkins again, another one exactly the same. And you can have that, you know, there's always debates to be had around contract. Do you try and give someone with who's had not the greatest injury record? We'll sign him on contract. That might be the simple way out of it, but I'm damn sure there'll be another club will happily offer him a contract. So you've always got to fight. That's a balance you've got to take, and you have to weigh up the risk in each individual case, to be honest. And whoever you sign, there will always be an element of risk. Actually, bless Andy Williams. He's had a brilliant injury record over the course of his 17-year career. And in the second pre-season friendly, he gets an injury that so far kept him out for the best part of 4 months. So there are no guarantees. It can happen, can't it? That's the thing. Bear with me. I'm going to go to the back first because I saw his hand up a little while ago.
Just changing the subject completely, for the news of yesterday and the day before, how has the club received 3 quotes for new headlights,
I think those comments should. Yeah, no, I think the comment. Well, as usual, Bulls News were out of date, because I think those comments they were attributed to me from about 3 months ago. I'm only saying that because Graham sat here at the front. No, we're way past, Darren, I think we're way past that stage, I think now, aren't we? We're beyond that stage of the quotes have all come in. We've got our preferred contractor, if you like, or whatever the league. So we're well past that stage now. So we are hopefully getting towards the very end of that process now. So those comments were from, I think, a previous fans forum. So yeah, we're well beyond that now, which is really good news.
Once the town's been assessed, which hopefully should be next week, then it's
Is that gentleman there?
just bringing us back to the boring comments about revenue, etc. Something that really irked me was during the World Cup. It was advertised that you could go into Addison's and watch the game, etc., and with meals and all that sort of thing, all set up. I thought that's fantastic. I've taken advantage of the situation, only to come down to Addison's to find it was shut. And I wasn't the only one. There were several people standing outside Addison's, finding Addison's was shut, and we had to go on into town. And it was just such an opportunity missed for easy revenue, drinks, food, watch the game, get all excited for the next match of industry. It didn't happen.
I don't know if you can. I mean, the World Cup was this time last year, wasn't it? I lose track of time, but it was just now, wasn't it? So I don't know. Bear with me a second.
I'm pretty sure we opened every England game because I was in the Hereford suite because I went to them and we had food on as well. So I think every England game we were open.
Yeah, we went to one.
Yeah. Obviously we didn't open for the non-England games, but yeah, we've got to be careful on when we open them and to try and make sure that there's going to be enough people turn up. But I'm pretty sure for the England games we were open.
I mean, it isn't just the England game that people want to watch, though. I can't remember which game it was, whether it was an England game or not.
Yeah.
It had been advertised as being open, and it wasn't. Look down you.
I don't know how. I was just Adam's nodding and saying it was. He said it was advertised as only for England games. I think what the sort of bigger picture is why we've done all the work. While the work has been done on what the bar's offerings and things is actually you've got to weigh up how realistic it is that enough people are going to come in to cover the costs of employing staff and opening the doors. And I think whatever event we're looking at, even including matchday bars usage, that's always the conversation we'll have. And there is a lot of competition in Hereford, isn't there, in terms of that. For the England games, you've probably got a fairly captive audience who will want to come here and watch it, but whether it's difficult, isn't it, if you're going to get two or three people in to watch Cameroon versus Austria or something like that, it's probably not worth employing somebody to be open for that period of time. So that's the battle we have to have all the time.
That's why pubs are shut in every day.
Yeah, 100%.
Before we managed it.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously our bars are quite big and it requires people to be here to open the doors, the bar staff and all that sort of stuff as well.
We came from 3 little England games and one of them there was like literally 2 tables worth.
Yeah. What I would say is now we know what it costs to open each bar, so we can have a much better decision on whether we open or not because we know what we might expect to turn up and we know the exact cost of opening that bar for a certain time. So the decisions we're making are much more based on fact moving forward. So that's probably what I would say out of that.
If you're driving to matches and you want to go to Addison's, you can no longer get a cup of tea or a cup of coffee.
In Addison's? Yeah, we'll make a note of. Jamie says he'll make a note of that. Oh, he's answering that. Sorry, apologies.
Yeah, we've had tea and coffee on in Addison's for the last couple of years, and we looked at it, and it was basically costing us money. So now, obviously, the snack bar sells tea and coffee. So if you want a tea and coffee in Addison's, you can go through to the snack bar, and the steward will let you do that. So that's where we are with Addison's. Yeah, we appreciate we're not going to please everyone, but it was something that we looked at, and it is a cost. And it might appear to be £1 for a tea or coffee, but over the course of the season, that can roll into hundreds of pounds, and hundreds of pounds quickly mount up into 2,000, especially when we've got 3 bars as well, as you factor that in. So, yeah, we do apologise. It's not going to suit everyone. We appreciate that, but hopefully moving forward, you'll be able to go and get coffee from the snack bar, basically.
There was another hand up somewhere. Was that in the same general? Another hand up somewhere there?
We've mentioned the players, we've mentioned the manager. I'd like to thank you guys. Because your communication to us has been part of the key of bringing back the ground to the players. I think that's really good.
Thank you. obviously, some of you may know I work in communication. That's what I do for a day job when I have time to do my day job. It's not going out live, is it? But it was something I felt was really important. I was a fan on the outside for a number of years after I moved on from working here, and I've obviously offered a bit of informal support in the background. But actually, it was something that I felt needed improving, and it's not rocket science, to be perfectly honest with you. There will always be things that a football club can't share with its supporters. That's just the way it is, because there are commercial things. There are, you don't want to give a competitive advantage to your opponents and that sort of stuff. But actually, there's a huge amount of stuff that why wouldn't you share it? Why wouldn't you offer the information? No one's, since I've come in, I've not had to convince anybody on the board, or we haven't had any conversations which have been, we shouldn't be giving out this information, we shouldn't be offering more information. So it's been an open goal really to offer that more information, and I'm glad it's gone well. Lots of people have commented on it. I had to spend 20 minutes a week talking to Jamie on Teams, obviously, which is probably the least pleasant part of it, and even worse for him, I guess. But yeah, no, and we'll continue doing it if we possibly can. And actually, Paul's embraced that as well. The manager's embraced the same level of openness and communication, and I think he understands the need to do that as well. He's a really good, I think one of his biggest qualities, he's a really good reader of a room. And I think he does that in terms of his playing squad as well, but also in terms of the supporters. I think he kind of is closer to the thoughts of supporters than some people in football are, so he's embraced that really well as well. So he's good, and we'll try and keep it going for as long as we can. It was more difficult when we were losing 6 on the bounce, to be fair, but you've still got to keep talking even when things aren't going so well, haven't you?
Yeah, that's football.
100%.
He needs to read the referee better for yellow cards.
Yeah, but he offers all his advice free of charge. Never invoices him for his guidance.
As we've got a captive ordinance, can I make it clear? I'm part of the stadium maintenance team, which means after every game we come in and clean all the way. When you buy your 50/50, don't tear them into 20 bits and throw them on the floor. Which means we've got to pick up 20 pieces of paper instead of one.
Yeah, no, that's a really good appeal. I mean, our volunteers in all areas of the club are just utterly magnificent and do a fantastic job. But obviously, if you can avoid ripping up your 50/50 tickets and making it worse, we'll be able to put him to work somewhere else and exploit him even more, and that'd be perfect, wouldn't it? Are there any more questions? If there aren't any more questions, then that's absolutely fine. What I would say, just from a personal point of view, is really thank you to not just you in the room, to everybody else on behalf of the whole club for the support you've offered, the positivity that you seem to be embracing at the moment. It does make an enormous, enormous difference to everything about this club. It's lovely to come to Edgar Street at the moment with a sort of feeling like you've got a spring in your step, that you're looking forward to what awaits you for the next couple of hours. Because we did have a period where I think it was more a sense of duty than a sense of something that you were looking forward to. So thank you for the part that you have all played in that. Please keep it up if you possibly can. Everyone involved at the club, board, staff, volunteers, everyone will continue to try doing their very best for you all. We won't get everything right, we won't always be perfect, but everything that's being done is coming from the right place and is coming with the intention of making this football club the best it can be, and I don't think any of us can do any more than that. So, but again, thank you very much, everybody.